So what I'm hearing is AI is now coming for teachers' jobs.
Yes.
Hey everybody, this is Chloe Aiello from Inc. Thanks for watching and listening to The Business Model. If you're not already, make sure to follow or subscribe to The Business Model on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts for the best business news and insights you need every week. And now that you're here, we want to hear from you. We're still a new show and we want your take. So what should we keep doing? What should we change? What should we cover next? Leave us a comment on YouTube or Spotify. Welcome to The Business Model. I'm Chloe Aiello.
Hey, I'm Ben Sherry.
Today on One Smart Business Story, we get an insider's take on which early-stage AI companies are poised for massive growth in 2026. All right, Ben, you lead AI coverage here at Inc., and you recently picked out 8 startups that are poised to accelerate in AI. We're going to run through all of those, but first I want to know how you arrived at these particular companies.
You know, it was sort of a varied thing. Part of it is just from my own reporting, knowing what companies are out there, who's raising money, who is really taking advantage of this sort of moment in popularity around agents, which is what a lot of these companies are really specializing in. Mm-hmm. Some of them are companies that actually don't have any products yet, but have very notable founders who are poised to do something really big this year. And then some of them are just companies that I had heard of or that somebody kind of tipped me onto and that I have a good feeling about, you know? So kind of a wide range of ways that we kind of put this list together. And some of them also came from our coworker Jennifer Conrad, who wrote her own companies to watch story and gave me a couple of ideas for AI ones to add into mine.
Props to Jennifer.
I love you, Jen.
Let's talk about themes. Are there any that you noticed? Are we going to see the next OpenAI on this list?
No, definitely not. I think that the big theme here actually is that companies aren't really attempting to make their own big foundational AI models anymore. The kind of thing that you see from like OpenAI, from Anthropic, from Google, from Meta, where they're saying, we want to make the AI model. Now, I think that where founders are at today is saying, I don't have the money to make an AI model because it costs billions and billions of dollars and months of time and thousands of people, but I can use the AI that's available and create a really killer application or collection of services that will kind of help me to stand apart or solve a really specific niche issue. And so I think that that's kind of mostly what I would say is like the overarching theme here is that it's a lot of companies looking to solve very niche issues. Mm-hmm. Then a couple of them are very ambitious companies that are still extremely early, haven't really raised funds, but are poised to have a really big year.
Nice. Well, let's talk about niche issues, starting with your first company, OpenEvidence. Yes. What can you tell us about that?
So this is actually a pretty big company. So they were founded in 2022. They have raised a lot of money. They raised a $250 million Series D a few months ago. And they are essentially, as it says, AI for doctors. If anybody out there has been watching The Pit, they actually didn't name OpenEvidence by name, but there's a character on The Pit this season that is very gung-ho about doctors using this AI transcription tool to write up their notes and their medical records, right? Companies, these doctors are always saying that I spend so much of my, work hours writing stuff into a computer, typing up these medical files, and less time that I could be spending actually helping people. This application kind of helps to solve that by essentially using like voice transcription. And it's not just voice transcription, but it also has been trained on specific medical lingo. So it understands, I don't know anything about medical lingo. Two of them. That's what I know. That's what I know from The Pit.
Okay, great.
But it knows all of the jargon, and so it's better at formatting it in the way that an actual doctor would format it. They've ridden this, to big success. I would say they're probably the most notable company on this list.
Interesting, too, because it feels like with, you could use a general note taker for many applications, but with medicine, there's, HIPAA concerns, privacy. So I'm assuming OpenEvidence would comply with all that given how widespread the use already is.
Yes, they're very compliant, enterprise, HIPAA. whatever you call it, SOC compliant. That's a thing, right?
Okay, let's talk about number 2 on your list. From Jan LeCun, the acclaimed NYU professor,
Yes.
2018 Turing Award winner, former chief AI scientist at Meta. What's his new company and what's it about?
Yes. So his new thing is AMI Labs, or Advanced Machine Intelligence. So Jan is a very interesting figure. He was at Meta for several years. He's one of the most, acclaimed, prestiged AI researchers in the world. So when he talks, people listen. He got into a lot of conflict at Meta over the last year because they hired Alexander Wang and basically reverse acquired Scale AI, or bought a 49, maybe 51% interest in that company, and put this guy Alexander Wang at the head of Meta's AI development stuff. Alexander Wang is 29 years old. Jan is a very established figure in the AI space who was now, taking orders from this much younger, more inexperienced guy. And in interviews, it made pretty clear that he didn't really respect the vision that, Alexander had and the direction that he was taking Meta. So he eventually decided to leave. I would also say that Jan is very staunchly political. He tweets a lot about, his thoughts and feelings on, the moment and on politics, and probably had some conflicts there at Meta that he ended up leaving and starting his own company for. So they're still very, very early on. They actually announced a partnership with Nabla, which is a company that does clinical care AI work. And so they're going to be kind of partnering together. They hired the CEO of that company, Nabla, as the new CEO of AMI Labs because apparently Jan doesn't want to be the CEO so that he can focus on research. But what does AMI Labs actually do? So they will produce world models. Instead of generating text, you can give a prompt to a model, and it essentially creates a virtual world for you to walk around and inhabit. You can almost think about it like it's a video game generator. Okay. Where I could say, make me a world where I'm a pig and everybody and I'm walking around a big farm and I need to get through an obstacle course, and it'll make it, and it's interactable and you can walk around, and they're really impressive and cool. Google has really been a kind of early entrant into this space, and World Labs, which is founded by this woman Fei Li, just announced a $1 billion fundraise today actually. And Jan is very confident that these world models are going to be the thing that gets us to AGI,
artificial general intelligence.
Yes, artificial general intelligence, which is kind of the AI buzzword to describe AI that can do anything, that is superhumanly smart, can take over the world, can do all of the economically viable work, and, is sort of the thing that all these AI companies are building toward.
Is it fair to kind of say that this company is attempting to bridge, Web3 and AI, because it does give metaverse, it's giving sort of interactive, immersive experience?
I think there's definitely a metaverse component to it. I don't know that the commercial aspects of Web3 are there in the same way. I don't know that there's people are going to be owning property in, worlds created by it, or NFTs or anything like that. But I do think that idea of a virtual inhabitable world that Meta was so, gung-ho on for a while, not anymore, is key to kind of figuring out AI. One of the reasons that they say that we really need this is that world models will help AI to improve its understanding of physics. Let's say I'm, the worst person in the world and I want to, generate, a big Hollywood blockbuster using only AI. And I need to make a scene where my characters are running on ice. Today's models might not be able to kind of perfectly simulate what that friction, all of the small little details that go into something like that, like running on ice. With world models, potentially they're going to be able to improve the understanding of the physics. So no, products out for this one right now. Yeah. They're still definitely in the building stage, but I wouldn't be surprised to see something later this year.
Okay. Exciting. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Let's talk about the third one on your list, which is Eureka Labs,
Yes.
another one with a popular founder.
This one is maybe my favorite on the list. So yes, the founder is Andre Karpathy. He is a former co-founder of OpenAI. He ran self-driving at Tesla for many years. He's considered like one of the most beloved personalities in AI. About a year ago, he actually is the person that came up with the term vibe coding, which he is very funny about, where like he'll just be like, I've done all this work, I've done so much, this is the thing I'll be remembered for.
Truly has a life of its own.
Yes, but so he is building a company and has been for the last couple of years called Eureka Labs. But it's not really like a company that's going to be making its own models, or at least that's not the only thing that they're going to be doing. The way that he describes Eureka Labs, Karpathy, is that it is essentially like Starfleet Academy. So do you know what Starfleet Academy is?
Only from reading your story.
Okay. So for everybody out there who's not like a total nerd like me, Starfleet Academy is the school that the characters in Star Trek go to. And so it's considered like this elite educational institution, best teachers, best training, best curriculum, teaches, you know, the next generation how to like succeed in the world, empathy, strategy, all that stuff. So what Karpathy really wants to do is create like Starfleet Academy for this future generation, like a new kind of school that will be anchored by an AI-powered virtual tutor. And this virtual tutor, ideally, will learn you and will learn what your preferred learning style is, how you like to be tested and graded, and kind of tailor your lessons and your education to you specifically. I think that he is somebody who is really interested in education. He's a very popular YouTuber. He releases these like hour-plus long videos where he kind of does these deep dives into what AI is, how to make an LLM, how to make like a mini version of ChatGPT. And so I think that he is very invested in how can I like solve education with AI.
So what I'm hearing is AI is now coming for teachers' jobs.
Yes. I would say yes, but I would also say that AI is coming for tutors' jobs. But I think it kind of already was, right? Like I would imagine that a lot of kids are using ChatGPT to study for tests, and obviously they're using it to cheat on, you know, on their homework and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that this will be probably very focused, at least at first, on teaching people about AI. And then I imagine it will kind of go out from there. But the interesting thing is that he's saying he wants to like build a physical school. Like he doesn't want to build like just have it be virtual for everybody. He wants actual like brick and mortar institutions where people go and they learn. So I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
He is still building the first class. He's kind of building it in public on GitHub. But I, again, would not be surprised to see some movement here later on in the year.
All right, Ben, let's delve into number 4.
Okay. And yes, number 4 is delve. This fits well with what we were just talking about with compliance. I know nothing about compliance. You probably know slightly more about compliance.
A little bit.
Yeah. I'm uncompliant just in general with like regulations and rules. But Delve is essentially an AI platform for automating a lot of that compliance work. So, you know, you say, okay, to win this RFP that I really need for my company, they need enterprise level protection, like SOC security, SOC compliant, as we were just saying.
Right.
And yeah, it kind of like runs through that process for you and helps you get all your compliance work done in sort of an automated, guided way that apparently is helping people a lot. And this company has been growing really, really fast. They were number 11 on Andreessen Horowitz's AI startup spending report. So, you know, startups are really getting use out of this. Imagine if you're, you know, trying to win business with the US government, right? You need all of these compliance certifications.
Right.
So this is sort of table stakes for companies that want to succeed in this world.
That seems like the perfect application for AI too. Just taking a bunch of grunt work that I'm sure no one really enjoys doing.
And filling out forms.
Automating it. Yeah. Let's talk about your 5th choice.
Yes. So listen up, Chloe, because I'm going to tell you about Listen Labs. Listen Labs is essentially, it's not quite like an automated market researcher, but the idea is that you can have agents go out and do a lot of the proactive, market research and analysis work that you would usually have to a team of people. So that could be developing questionnaires, finding people to take a survey, and identifying, potential customers. Like, they will really do a lot of that work, the outreach, and help you actually get, proprietary data about, interest in your company and, in your service. So I think that it's going to be, an interesting, next year for them. I actually wrote a story recently about how to use ChatGPT for market research. Normal consumer level tools are already pretty good at this type of stuff. But what Listen Labs has that the other ones don't is active interviewing, where it will even have like an AI voice just ask you questions. Like, you can get into a meeting with it and say, oh, how does drinking Diet Coke make you feel? Amazing. I love it. But, in general, like something like that.
Yeah. I mean, this doesn't sound like, maybe the sexiest company on this list, but it sounds like they've landed some really major clients.
And I would say we should name the sexiest company on this list when we're done.
I'll leave that one up to you.
Okay, fine.
All right, let's get into number 6, Cubic.
Yes. So Cubic is an AI code reviewer. So obviously, the last year, 2025, was this explosion of interest in AI-powered coding. Claude Code, Codex, Lovable, Replit, all of these, vibe coding companies just completely exploded. But the thing that we keep hearing from people is that while they're really good and useful and you can get a lot done, they're not perfect. And because of the way that they work, they can sometimes get core problems wrong or can make some core misunderstandings about what they're supposed to be building. And so they deliver faulty code. What Cubic wants to do is be the code review layer on top of your code maker. So they don't want to actually write the code for you. They want to scan over the code and find potential problems and give you solutions for how to fix it.
Interesting. It sounds like that'd be good applications for security, because that's the main thing I've heard with vibe coding.
Yes, 100%. I think security is a major part of this. Basically, just for any company that is intentionally vibe coding stuff and then shipping it out to production, I think that you're going to need some sort of layer like this. And honestly, I'm curious to see what happens with this company, because a lot of what they do could be done by the actual model companies like your Claude Code. Right. They already have, code reviewer agents that you can invoke to take a look at your code base. So where Cubic fits into this is still something that I think they're figuring out.
Yeah, I think Claude Code in general poses a threat to all of these vibe coding companies, but
kind of to all companies, when Claude released their legal tool a week ago, it sent shockwaves through the stock market and all of the legal firms that are publicly owned. They all totally sank. So.
All right, let's get into the next one, because this one, Axiom Math, was one that I had big questions on. And it sounds like when you were talking earlier about really ambitious companies, this might be one of them. This
is a hugely ambitious company. Axiom Math, founded by this 24-year-old named Karina Hong, who is a genius-level mathematician. I think she's a Rhodes Scholar. She's won all of these awards. And she basically wants to build AI superintelligence specifically for math. Part of her strategy for creating this genius AI mathematician is to basically fill out her company with genius mathematicians. Mm-hmm. So one of them is this guy, Ken Ono, who was a tenured UVA professor and actually walked away from his professorship to go and work at this company for his former mentee, the founder, Karina Hong. They have not really put out a product yet, but they have released some models that they are using to solve math problems that have stumped humans for years. As a mere mortal myself, who does not have a particularly deep understanding of math, journalist without much understanding of what are some of the practical applications of a company like this? I think that there are a couple of big ones. One is cybersecurity, where you need to be creating these extremely embargoed, filtered, encrypted solutions that, potentially a super smart math AI could make more impressive, more secure solutions. There's also stuff like rocket science, I would think could be a really interesting one. Stuff that has to do with, creating calculations, doing the math to do something core with physics or with chemistry. I think that there's going to be a lot of potential there. But we really haven't seen any of that from the company at this point. We're still really in the proving themselves stage, but they have funding. They have a really great team. And I imagine that we're going to hear a lot more about what they're actually going to do to make money soon.
Big ambitions. All right, let's talk about the last one here. Before I ask you the question of which of these companies was the most impressive, Reducto.
Yes. So Reducto is a very simple but necessary one. So Reducto essentially is a machine vision solution that reads through your PDFs and identifies everything. You can do this right now with pretty much any AI model. You can give any document to ChatGPT or Claude and just say, find me this thing. But sometimes they'll still miss. And part of what this is for is that it can basically read the document, take the necessary information, and automatically push it to the application where it should be. So, one of their clients is Harvey, the legal AI company that has been making big headlines in the last couple of weeks for big fundraising, and they just hired the guy that played Harvey on Suits to be their spokesperson. So Harvey uses it because they have to review contracts all the time, right? And so being able to have a thing that just digitizes the contract, gets all of the information, and then you can use that information inside of one of these other applications like a Harvey, I think is really useful. So it's not something that I think most people would think is worth, hundreds of millions of dollars. But one of the things that the investor that I spoke to for this story, I think this one was from Colvier Tagar at Phosphor Capital. He said that sometimes the simplest thing is actually the most necessary thing. And that it might seem so obvious as to not even do it. But that's actually sometimes the thing that you're really looking for. Yeah,
this one seems like another just absolutely intuitive application for AI. Okay, so you've done all this reporting.
Yes.
Covered all these exciting companies. I want your fast, quick assessment of which of these companies you think is the most exciting, the most poised for takeoff.
Ooh, so that might be two different answers, actually. Because I think that for me, what's most exciting is probably Eureka Labs or AMI Labs. Mm-hmm. I really love the idea of these big personality founders kind of striking out on their own and doing things that are a little off the beaten path for AI. Like saying, oh, we're not going to go for, commercially minded text-based models. We're going to do world models, or we're going to build a school that's going to make everybody smarter. Mm-hmm. How does that make money? Hell if I know. But I think that in terms of what's poised to really explode this year, I think Delve. There's a couple of reasons. One, we are seeing an explosion in new startups, right? AI has democratized software engineering, as they like to say, right? And so I think it's made more people think, I could be a founder.
Right.
I could do it. I've got an idea. But those people still need compliance if they want to get, the business that they want to get, if they want to be, in bed with the U.S. government, if they want to, handle some of these more high pressure jobs, then they need compliance. And if you're a solo company or a 2 or 3 or 4 person company, you might not really have the time for that. You might not want to do it. It sounds really boring. So I think that Delve is offering something that is unsexy, but necessary, deeply necessary.
Delve, the best friend for solopreneurs.
My
Bye, Ben Sherry.
best friend.
We'll return in just a minute for Circling Back. All right, Ben, you know what time it is. It's time for Circling Back. So what is on your mind? What's a good story that you've read this week?
So this morning, I read a story in the Wall Street Journal about JP Morgan's new bar that's inside of their big, fancy Midtown building that just opened up. It's called Morgan's, appropriately named.
Appropriate.
But there are only 55 seats inside the bar, and there are, I think 10,000 employees that work in that building. And so apparently it has become a very difficult to get reservation for actual JP Morgan employees. So it's just a really interesting sort of example of how a lot of the benefits that brought people into finance in the first place, right? Like, black car service to get to and from the office, or getting DoorDash for every single meal that you have when you're working from home. A lot of that stuff is kind of going away now, and things are just getting a little more condensed and crunchy, even as they're kind of pushing these return to office mandates.
Literally condensed because 55 seats.
Yeah, because these bankers, these are all like very, very wealthy people who are all like cramped into this tiny bar like sardines, and they're apparently trying to kind of open it up and make it easier, but for the most part, apparently like you have to reserve a table weeks in advance, and for many people, they're using it as a place to take potential new clients, right?
Okay.
Take you out for a beer. You can do it right there in the building. But I think it's probably getting in the way of employees actually enjoying the benefit just casually.
The hottest new reservation in town is Morgan's.
And it's like, there's also information about how they have a gym in the building, right? But you have to pay. Even if you're a JP Morgan employee, you have to pay a monthly fee to get in.
Oh, wow.
It's cheaper for junior employees than senior employees, but still, that's coming directly out of your paycheck. It's just an interesting kind of sign of the changing times, is that even JP Morgan can't afford to, comp all of their employees.
Bar tabs,
their gym memberships, even when the gym is in the building.
Yeah, that's a little rough. And it kind of reminds me just of the whole nature of return to office that we've been talking about, with certain benefits disappearing, not to mention working in finance. But I think that the fact that it's crystallized around a certain location is like especially notable about this story.
Yes. And, I think that a lot of people, if you live in New York, you've seen that building go up. You're like, wow, that's a really pretty building. And it really is a gorgeous building. They have these like water fixtures on the outside that make the lights all shimmery. But, inside, they're still dealing with it. And an interesting tidbit that came out of the story that I thought was really funny is that originally they were apparently printing Jamie Dimon's face onto the fizz or the head of the beers that they would pour.
Right.
And then Jamie Dimon was like, "That's funny. Don't do that."
Nothing like unwinding while staring at your big boss
staring
at the end of the
day. CEO of your company as you just
don't
gulp down a cold one. So apparently he put the kibosh on that. Didn't want it to seem like this was just part of a big vanity stunt. The entire building,
right.
The bar, everything. So
does add something nice to the skyline, though. I will admit that.
It's really pretty.
So I want to talk about my story now. It's about Meta securing a new patent. And essentially what it will allow Meta to do is keep your social media alive after you die.
Oh, God, I've heard about this.
Yeah, so apparently they applied for this back in 2023. They received the patent in December, and Meta CTO Andrew Bosworth was the author of the patent. So it's a little bit less post-apocalyptic than it sounds. So that's definitely one possible application of the technology. But really what it does is create a digital clone of a user by studying their posting cadence, what they like to post, how they respond to comments or posts that other people have made, and even how they DM to imitate that user. And this could be applied to influencers, like if they're making a significant bit of revenue from their social media platform, but they need a break, then obviously this could be used to give them that much needed break. But they do mention in the patent application that it could be used to imitate people who've died. So there's truly no freedom from social media even after you die.
So literally AI zombies.
Right. And I think it's so interesting because, the dead internet theory, I like to talk about this a lot. But
I feel like it's confirmed at this point. But why don't you explain what the dead internet theory is for people?
Yeah, just essentially that one day AI or bots, bots back in the day, AI now is going to be just using the internet to essentially interact with itself, and that there will be very few humans in the loop. If that's not already happening today, then this type of thing would make that possible. And it begs the question, what value is there in interacting with an influencer or a famous person if you're 100% confirmed that at some point, you're just interacting with a bot? Something eerie about this, too, was that not only can it, post like the person, they said that they could potentially use it to do video calls or phone calls, which is pretty creepy.
I know that this has kind of been a bigger thing in Asia over the last couple of years, this idea of digital ghosts, people not uploading their consciousness into the cloud, but creating this like digital double based on all of the work and writing and information that they have out there. And, some people really do swear by it and say that it's helped them to find some catharsis with loved ones. Whether or not, you want to believe that is like a very up to you thing, I think. Several companies that are going after this idea of the digital clone. And yeah, I think it's really important to think about, what happens. That digital clone is, essentially immortal unless, the hardware that is required to run it is no longer available. Yeah. So what happens to these digital doubles when their human counterpart has passed on? We haven't really figured this stuff out yet. I mean, there's no laws, there's regulations about it. And I kind of doubt that we're going to be seeing any regulations about AI in general in the next couple of years.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is like, I would wonder, is the user able to consent to this type of thing? Or could a loved one be like, I just lost my, family member. Hey, Meta, can you make them come back to life with this? And obviously, after someone's passed away, they don't have the opportunity to give their consent. So I think this is going to raise big questions. It also is worth noting, though, that when pushed on this by Business Insider, who originally reported this story, Meta was like, well, we have no plans at the moment to go forward with that particular application of this technology. So I think the way Meta is framing it for now is that it would be used more for the influencer use case.
Yeah. I mean, they already have tried that in the past, right? Meta had their AI chatbots that were like, talk to Kylie Jenner, talk to Steph Curry, talk to Snoop Dogg, I think was one of them.
Right.
And so they've already been trying. And there are applications like Character AI that have gone really into this idea of like creating a specific character or persona to talk to. I think that we're getting into interesting stuff here about like an AI-focused, like, do not resuscitate order or something like that, right?
Right.
Where it's like, okay, well, they've passed. Like, don't bring the AI back. Like, it's over.
Yeah. So many big questions that, to your point, it's like if we can't even create some general boundaries around AI, then niche applications like this, it seems like there's almost no chance at this point.
I mean, stuff like this is just going to continue popping up because the gold rush to get any kind of, AI adjacent anything is just how everyone in business is now thinking about, making their fortune. And so unless there's regulation that actually guides what people can make with AI, then it's going to continue to be the Wild West. And we're going to see weird and sort of disturbing stuff like this.
Disturbing is definitely the right word.
Yes, but interesting.
Interesting. All right, Ben, thanks so much for joining me to discuss your one smart business story.
Thanks so much for having me, Chloe.
The Business Model is an Inc. podcast. You can find episodes every Monday and Friday on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and check out some of our other videos. You can hear the audio version on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.